I'm Zara.
And I'm Fatma.
And welcome to the third podcast.
Third episode of our podcast.
Oh yeah, third episode.
Yeah.
It's weird that we're actually doing this.
I know. I think, oh my god, it's actually raining quite a lot.
Yeah. Okay, by the way, it's still raining. It's the same day as the last podcast. I don't think it'll be for you. I love how raw and informal we are.
I don't think we're really thinking about anything we're saying.
No,
anyways.
I don't think we generally do. Actually, I though for sure never think before I speak. I just end up saying random shit.
Which is fair, I think. You know, why would you spend so much time thinking about it?
I'm a very non-serious person. Like, I think really dark, serious thoughts, but as a human being, I'm just like, yeah, whatever, chill. Yeah, party. Ooh, happy. Ooh.
I don't think a lot of people would actually say that about you.
Really?
Yeah. But it's fair.
What would people say about me?
I don't know. I think it's different. I think... So I'm, like, my parents call me the sunshine child. Okay? Greg, you're totally positive all the time.
Yeah.
Always, like, present, yay, whoa. Just really positive energy.
Yeah.
Never deep, dark, twisty. None of that negative stuff, right? But I think a lot of people would not associate that with either of us because of, I think, our thought processes and the way we think, the way we act.
I would say I think really serious thoughts.
Yeah.
But if I'm in a group of people,
it's
then just like a...
whatever.
Like, and you know, different people see different sides of me at
Also
different
true.
times. So like, I think Malaysia people will never have seen my like really serious, analytical, this is how Zara works side.
Yeah, fair enough. I think Karachi people have seen probably the most of it. But even that in like limited aspects.
Yeah. I think different people see different parts depending on context.
Also, I think that goes for everyone, I guess. I think there's very few people that anyone can actually be themselves with. But even then, what is the concept of
Okay,
stuff?
I'm gonna cut this entire thing out and I need to ask you because it's raining, right?
Okay.
And I, again, love rain.
Yes, we
and
know.
I think rain is really inspiring, right? And I think it's just beautiful and wholesome and all of those things. So I have a question, right? What inspires you, like as a creator, as a writer, when you write or when you do something? How do you reach that space of like creative energy and things like that?
Okay, so it's been a really interesting process because I would say any time that I have been writing or creating or doing anything has always had a very strong emotional tug with it. So initially, I think what really got me into writing or anything of that is the fact that I think it's a need to share. But you know, when I was talking to you that day and I said that there does not exist a language in which I can properly explain all that is going on.
Yeah.
Right? And so creating stories or just small excerpts of like description or just writing is the best possible way because I can't express exactly what is going on because again there is no word that can explain it, and so it's a lot easier to draw parallels, a lot easier to create a narrative that supports it.
I think the time that you did that exercise with me, it kind of like I was like, holy crap, right? Because like as an artist, I get stuck a lot because I overthink a lot of my things, right? I'm like, is this good enough? Is this...
Should we tell them the exercise?
Yeah. I want you to do it right now.
Okay, fine. We'll do it.
Okay, I want you to create a story about something right now.
Okay, well, when we did the exercise, we decided... Because we want to get rid of blocks, right? So we decided we take a feeling and then we create a story around it. Yeah. And I think the thing we did was about loss or something of that sort, right?
I was feeling lost at that time.
Yeah. So give me a feeling now and we can probably create something.
The only feeling I can think of is contentment.
Okay, contentment.
Yeah.
Okay, so contentment for me as a description would be a blue bubbling ball of air with water droplets just hanging inside, not falling.
I can hear the rain while you do this, so it's like fucking hell.
You know, like I don't know if you've seen, but Avatar, right? The Last Airbender, right? It is a beautiful show. It's so amazing. And if you noticed the air symbol in that, right? That and then mix that with the water tribe symbol. So just imagine a ball of levitating air, okay, swirled all around in blue, and then just hanging water droplets just inside
Yeah.
it, not falling down, not already on the ground.
Are
just
they
in
like
between.
crystal water droplets?
They're
or are
fluid. They're fluid water droplets.
Okay, so they're like moving.
They're
inside.
moving just within that
Yeah.
space. They're not
Dropping.
They're just suspended.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, what contentment is.
Okay.
For me, at least right now.
Yeah.
As a story narration.
You completely just capsulated the background.
It is. That is exactly what it is, right? Like,
yeah.
I woke up today, the same thing. I just felt this sort of content, really zen state of mind.
I think I can cry because of the sound of the rain. Like
It's also thunder.
Yeah, I know. I heard thunder and I was like, Mama.
Okay, fine.
Okay, let me try. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I get really critical about everything, and then I can't imagine. Like my imagination is not my like strongest suit. Color is.
Because you don't like
Let
dream
go.
of the you don't dream of the fantastical.
Yeah, I don't.
You really don't. And
It's
this
really
is
hard
a
for
really
me.
good exercise, I think, just for anyone to try.
Yeah.
Take a feeling and then try to describe
Okay,
it.
let me try contentment, right? The first thing I think of when I see contentment is yellow. And then like how do I become fantastical about it?
I took up a kids show as a symbol of contentment with the water sign and the air trial sign. So really, just have a go at it.
It's okay. It's okay. Let me think. Okay, so like I see like a really vast sea, and then I see like a ship, but the ship is actually like a turf, like grass, and on that grass is just sunflowers and sunflowers and sunflowers and sunflowers and more sunflowers, and then I am the bee that's on the sunflower.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
That's really sweet.
But it's in the middle of nothing, so it's just floating in space.
In space or in a sea?
In a sea, like it's the body of water.
You know, it's really interesting because
But it's all blue and bright. And
because I think what a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people do, but I think at least you and I do, we associate color with a lot of feeling.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of our journey has been similar or very complementary colors. So blues, yellows, purple have always had that play. And I know for me, blue is like my favorite color.
Yeah.
All shades of blue, from sea green to turquoise and all of that, have always been a very core part of the colors that I really love and like.
Yeah.
And whenever I think I am at a peaceful state, blue is always the color of where I gravitate towards. So I think for me, yellow is a feeling of a lot of warmth, a lot of centeredness. And it's definitely the color I think of because it's warm when I'm in London. But every time I'm in Karachi and I'm in that really like zenned out state of mind, it's always blue and circles, and that's always my head is at.
Yeah.
That's another. Circles are like another topic entirely.
Yeah, entirely. No, I think I get it. Like with me, it's like as a creator, right? I work with energy a lot.
Yeah.
I because I'm also a very intuitive person. So there are days where, like, you know, let's say I don't paint or do anything for a while, and I just wake up and it's in my hands. Like, I don't think about it, but my hands itch to like paint. Like, I have to do it.
Yeah.
It has a life and a conscious of its own, and I cannot interfere with it, but it's coming from somewhere. And a lot of times, you know what happens with me is like, because I'm intuitive, I sense a lot of energies around me, and I know it's not mine, but I have to channel it out from me.
So you know what I've learned about that is exactly what happens when I have the feeling to write.
Yeah.
It's just this. There's a thing like you know what? Okay, so I wrote a piece, the ultramarine glow piece I wrote, which was about Johannes Vermeer, one of his paintings, the Milkmaid, right? And it was literally just about that one picture, not even that picture in its entirety, just a portion of the maid's apron, which was the color blue.
Yeah.
Okay. And I remember I was upstairs in my room. I was just talking to my parents, and then 2 minutes later, I'm like, I just have to go down because I had to run down. I just had to write exactly what I thought down.
Yeah.
And it was totally random because nothing had happened.
Yeah.
I just felt the urge to, and I could not fight it. I couldn't fight it.
Yeah. That's you know, a lot of my portfolio also, I dreamt of those things. Like, I just would sleep and I would wake up and be like, shit, I have to make this. And then, like, I would wait, like, you know, a lot of times what happens, especially when I'm going to sleep, I start visually drawing in my head. And I'm like, okay, no, I will forget if I fall asleep, so I have to draw it out now. So even if it's just a sketch, I have to do it. But it comes from, like, God knows where. Like, it has its own energy. But, like for example, like, the other day also, I was just like, I need to create, and I don't know what to make. So I'm like, okay, what's the color? Like, you know, for example, you know what? when I was in Malaysia, you were talking to me, and I hadn't painted after CIE.
I remember that painting you did.
Yes, it was, I think, a year, almost over a year since I had actually touched paint or a paintbrush or a pencil or anything in that regard. And I was just like, that day, I was like, yaar, something's bugging me. And I thought I was like in this really anxious state of mind, and I'm like losing my head and God knows what. And I was like, and you convinced me that Zara, just paint it out. And I was like, okay. So when I painted it, it was all like nice, soft pink pastels and blues. And I was like, what just happened? Right? I thought I was going to paint like really dark red.
Angsty colors.
Yeah, no. Like fighting with something, and I just painted like the nicest sky, and I was like, holy crap, maybe I was calmer than I thought.
It's a lot of the times it's that really
I can hear thunder.
That urge inside of us when you feel unsettled and you feel this angst is because you're actually denying yourself
the pleasure of doing something.
Exactly, and you want to do something. Like I think it's also even before we started doing this whole thing, where I was telling you that I feel like I'm just really uncomfortable in where I am, just the whole uncomfortable floating kind of situation. And that was also because I knew there was something, and there had to be something. I was just waiting.
So vague is something.
I don't know. It is so vague. Even like before, I begin writing about anything. There's no specific subject I'm writing on. There's no specific story. It's just there's a feeling. I need to express it. There has been some revelation, and it needs to be shown. Right. Just like this whole podcast thing, I think I need to do something. I don't know what it is, but there is a very urgent need to create or do or say something.
I think as creators that need comes, but like, what if there's a roadblock? Like, if you do you only write when you get inspired by something, or do you write because you have to write?
No, I only write if I get inspired by something.
AKA me. Let's just put it out there.
Yes, Zara. Yes, of course. I don't know. So I tried
for
doing...
context. I'm her muse, and I just want to point it out for my ego.
Yes, yeah, fine. Okay, so out of the pieces I've written, I think at least 4 of them have been because of photography Zara has done, or just Zara's face in her photography.
It creeps me out, honestly.
It's quite lovely, honestly. I think all those pictures are really, really something. And they're all, again, things that cause some kind of stirring of emotions, cause some kind of thought process to take place.
You know, I think that's the biggest compliment anyone can give me, because my intention to create something is always an emotional intention. So if I can spark an emotion in anyone, that's all I want. Even if it's just one person.
That's true. And I know that's really something, because I think it also makes sense when all the pictures or the artwork you've sent me, it's always been after or before we've talked about a certain subject. So I remember the one that you sent, which was just your face and like open hair and your eyes. And we talked about like circular patterns and circular motions. It was because we had talked about that whole pattern of repetition and how that creates an energy.
Okay. Let's just talk about circles, right? So like we as in you and I, we associate symbols with a lot of things, right? So like, let's say if we associate color, yellow is our color of like growth and harmony and all those things, but circle is one of those really, really big symbols of growth, life energy, and transformation.
The Enso circle.
The Enso circle is basically a circle that is literally about transforming from one thing to another, and how energy transfers.
It's essentially, in the Japanese symbol, it's a snake that is biting its own tail. So it's death and rebirth from the same
point.
Yeah, which is so interesting, because I remember I wrote this piece where I said the act of becoming oneself is actually the act of remembering oneself.
Yeah.
And this again goes back to the conversation we had where I talked to you about Hegel and the theory of self-realization. It's just this circular process where there's a thesis, there's an antithesis, and there's a synthesis. So
you want to explain that in a little more depth?
Sure, okay. I think that would be a little better. So the whole concept of Hegel, at least what I understood when I studied it, was that everything in life, in history, the world spirit, always goes in a circular pattern. So, and this was explained again through the master and slave dialect. So it happens that there are 2 people. One person, there's a war that happens. One person is willing to sacrifice his life in order to live, in order to actually be victorious, and so he becomes the master. And the person who gives up his own sense of self because he doesn't want to die, because he's so afraid of death, becomes a slave, right? But what happens is that over time, the slave comes to realize that because his experience or his personhood is validated by the master, who is a whole being, the slave is not a whole being, because he has not self-realized his own consciousness yet, right? So he realizes that he's actually a full person even within himself. So the slave goes from becoming a slave to a person who realizes his whole sense of being, and then again the synthesis would be a revolution where the slave overtakes the master. And a very real life example of this is the Haitian Revolution that happened.
Yeah.
Where
I think it's about like free will, right?
it is, but it's about self-realization of your own freedom.
Yeah.
That you are a whole and complete person. But this is again very historical context.
Yeah.
What I mean by the circular pattern of life and the flow of energy is that you realize that everything that you wanted to become or have become has already always been inside you.
Yeah.
So if you
It's
really
like,
if you really want to become if you really want to become a self-aware,
Fuck
or you
yeah.
want to become this really inspiring person or this really creative and good writer, you've always had that inside you.
Or you already are.
You already are, exactly.
Yeah. It goes with the last one, right? Like I am.
Yeah,
I am already what I need to be. And like, you know, I had that analogy of like we're a dot.
Yeah.
Like we're one speck in this entire large vast universe, and somehow, somewhere along the line, we want to stretch that dot into a line. We have to fit in, and we have to perform, and we have
But
to
the
go.
line makes no sense.
Exactly. We just need to expand that dot, or expand the vibration of that dot in reality.
Or honestly, just realize that it's already an expansion continuously.
Yeah.
Because
It is a dot in the dot is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's-
Because as human beings,
Yeah.
you're always going through experiences all the
Yeah.
time. It's
Lightning.
it's only a matter of time when you realize that fuck, I actually am going through all these things.
Yeah.
It's the same point where the slave realizes, fuck, I actually am a human being, and I
can
deserve
do whatever
I
I
could
want.
deserve
Yeah.
respect. I am a person with my own agency. Oh my
Yeah.
god, thunder. Wow.
Thunder. Yeah, I'm really like, you know, I'm getting really inspired the more we go in this, because Thunder is like stirring up some shit in me. And this conversation that we're having about circles, like, you know, I decided that, okay, the Japanese Enso circle, right? There's this theory about that circle where if you make that circle, right, it can you can decode it. Like, you can decode an entire personality based on just reading that circle. So if I were to make that circle and I go to someone who actually knows how to read it, they can tell me everything they need to know about me from that circle. And obviously, there are not a lot of people on this planet who can do that like accurately, and the knowledge isn't shared because it's obviously like really like historic and spiritual and all those things. But I got really into this whole circle thing, and circles and balance, it comes together. And I started making this journal in which I would just make that circle every day. So somehow along the lines, that circle transformed into different shapes. It turned more about balance, but the idea of taking something as fluid as ink or something and then just creating it in one motion is so interesting, because I can tell, like, you know, days when I'm like anxious or whatever, there is cuts in my circle. Like if I compare them now, it's insane, because again, I'm a visual analytical person, but you can sense energy.
But you know, it's interesting. I mean, you know, actually it's kind of obvious that it would happen that way. It is, we don't realize, because obviously the paintbrush or the ink is just an extension of your own body at that point.
Hand, literally.
It is an extension of it, right? So obviously how you feel is going to be translated into the motions of your hand, how confident you are,
how big or small it is.
The way you feel will automatically translate into what you create. It's the same thing where if I'm feeling really angsty or agitated, the piece that I write will have really harsh words in it. Yeah. Right? But if I'm feeling in a really fluid, really happy state of mind, I'll have really like lyrical words to it. Where it's a lot of L's and S's, really smooth flowing ones.
It's like a story that I have, my personal experience, right? So I've been studying with my art teacher, or used to study with her for like 5 years, right? And when I started, like I think in grade 9, when I started going to her, she would always say, Zara, you're not confident at all, what is this? Like, you know, she's like torn my artwork in front of me. But now I get it, because like when I look, I never understood what she meant by I'm not confident, right? I was like, holy crap, my entire like my entire like selling point is that I'm this confident human being. You put me on a stage, I'm going to speak. You know, I can do drama. I can do all
But are
these
you
things.
really?
Yeah, and I was like, what are you talking about, woman? And you know, I look back at those pieces of work, and I can see my growth. And that's why art plays such a big role in my life, because I look back and there's absolutely no use of color. The lines are so controlled, they're all broken, and I create those same things. And like, you know, there was one thing that I made. There was a carton, and I did it in grade 9, and I did it in A2 or A1 actually, and I can tell the difference. And I was like, holy shit, I didn't know.
Okay, so now if you were to chart your progress, right?
Yeah.
So where do you think your artwork is at this current state?
At this current state, it's become, because see, now I use my art as a process of unlearning. I use it as a means to fight perfectionism. A very, very big thought, right? So I think if I start creating, I'm obviously a lot further ahead.
It's non-conformist kind of
It's
artwork.
not, yeah, it's not, it's more, it's going towards modern, abstract, and all of those things. But if you were to make that cartoon again, it would obviously be a lot more fluid than it was before. And I think it showed my sense of self-esteem entirely, which is pretty cool, actually.
I think it's really interesting because I think a lot of that again is reflected in artistic and creative processes. So I think if I were to look back at my own writing, right?
Yeah.
I think I started from a place of self-discovery, as in, who am I? Because I remember the first piece I wrote was, and the ending line of the first piece I wrote was, who are we?
Yeah.
Right? And then it was, who am I?
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's been a process of, from who are we and who am I to, I feel fixated, I feel stuck, I feel angry, I feel all of these really strange and abstract things. And then it's become it's boiled down to a lot more specific emotions. It's boiled down to a lot more intrigue and wonder and very specific things I've written about. Like I'll write about again, like your pictures and your paintings, or I'll write about other artwork, or I'll write about the feeling I'm in. I think the most recent piece of artwork I wrote about was about contentment, was about abundance, right? And that was essentially very raw in its own writing, because it's like when I shared it with one of my friends, they were like, it's so unsettling because it's so raw that it's really uncomfortable to read it, because you don't want to be going through that experience, right? But it was difficult to write about, but also not that difficult, because I just did not fight the feeling.
Is it difficult to read sometimes?
Yes.
Yeah.
My work, I think all that I've written, I don't even like looking back at the ones I've done in the beginning, because I like cringe internally.
Yeah.
It's not like they aren't good pieces of writing, it's just the feeling associated with it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've grown so much beyond that, but I'm probably still not at that point where I can look back at it and be at peace with it.
Okay, so I have both. With some of my pieces, because I've grown so far ahead, I can look back and appreciate that growth.
Yeah.
But with some pieces, like, you know, like the other day, let's say 2 months ago, I created a painting and it looks like freaking hell. Like, it looks like I painted the gates of hell. And I was in a very calm zen state, so I was like, what have I done? You know?
Because it's so jarring. It's such a sharp contrast.
And I have both those canvases here in front of me, and I look at both of them and I'm just like, ek blue, pink, pastel sky, ek hafte bana hai, aur dusre hafte is like red, dark, fighting, and I'm like, what happened, you know? And sometimes it's hard to look at, and sometimes it's not, you know? And I think that's kind of what reflection is. Like, I can create that distance between me and the artwork, because I understand that artwork has its own life and energy, but it's also like,
sometimes it's tough. It's tough looking back at a work of art.
Also, we're like very critical of ourselves.
Yes,
and our
also
skills.
true. Also true.
So,
but it's a lot of it is about the feeling that the work projects. So like artwork or writing, when you read it or when you see it, both of it is just it's kind of a reminder of, okay, you were also feeling this.
Yeah.
And you don't really, like we said, no one really wants to credit themselves for all the ugly that they've also gone through.
Yeah.
We only ever want to look back at the good ones. Yeah. So I think to sum up this podcast, I think a lot of it started from inspiration and started out towards then balance and circles
and growth
and reflection.
I think it's a process of learning and unlearning and relearning and unlearning and
which
relearning.
is again a circular process.
Yeah.
You learn, you unlearn, you learn, essentially come back to a new conclusion, which is again the old one.
I think I would pose a question to everyone who's listening. Is like, what inspires you, and does that inspiration have enough energy for you to go and seek out and create that inspirational reality.
And you know what would be a really cool thing to understand with that is if that inspiration has always been the same, or if you think it's new, but is it really that new, or has it been something that has always been there?
Yeah, and you're just now acting or recognizing
it, yeah.
Seeing it. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think that sums it up.
And I think with that, goodbye.
Bye.